219-845-1100. Let's go to Joe from Highland on line 1. Hey, Joe, what's up, man?
Good morning, people. Listen, I'm going to talk about two things, about the police sweep in Gary, and also about an update on what Alexis said there. She mentioned that the election's coming up, and pretty soon they'll be going on for re-election tours. Obama is already going on the tour already. It's called Save My Job Tour. So he's already campaigning every day. So, and anyway,
hold on a second. Let's stop right there. No, hold on. He's on the Save My Job Tour already. Exactly. He's already campaigning for the presidency. You think that's what he's doing with?
Absolutely, there, and everybody knows that to be so. And one thing about it, hey, Jim, promise him everything. You know, doesn't make any. See what sticks, and just promise him everything there. So, anyway,
hold on a second, Alexis. Is that what he's doing? Just stumping right now?
Well, Alexis may disagree with me.
Hold on.
I think that from the beginning, from the time that the president takes office in his first term, that we could say that he's stumping all along because he wants to accomplish the promises and the policies that he's run on, because he wants to be able to say that he had accomplishments and made positive strides when he goes to run for his second term. So I can see how you could be saying that, Joe, and perhaps that is the case, but what I was focusing on was more the fact that we need more bipartisan politics in order to get things accomplished, because there are so many people out of work, and the economy is just such a bust right now. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Well, you know what, Alexis, I wish he would run. I wish he would run on his accomplishments. Everything he's touched has failed. He spent almost $1 trillion, and it evaporated. Where did it go? It went somewhere. And on and on and on. His what's his name? His medical plan was a complete failure.
Joe, what do you think about this? Dan Parker of the Indiana Democratic Party is putting this out, and he's calling on Lugar, Daniels, Pence, and the rest of the folks, Coates, to put their partisan politics aside and basically support the president's plan. And of course, this bridge that looks like it is in trouble over the Mississippi River, they're putting that at the forefront. What do you think about that? Calling for Republicans to support Obama's plan coming up. You think that's possible?
Well, I think we all should pull together if it's for a meeting of saving jobs. But do you want another 4 years of Obama? Absolutely not. There.
Yes,
I want to mention about
actually,
Gary.
Joe, yes, I do.
I only got a few seconds there. Listen, on this police sweep of Gary and everything else, Jim, I mentioned about crime, and I wonder if this could be called racism, because I mentioned about crime in Gary, I mentioned crime in East Chicago and so on, and I was called a racist there for that. I wonder if these people, I just wonder how many of these people they arrested. I wonder if they did it evenly, and they arrested so many whites and so many blacks. And I wonder how many blacks they had arrested versus whites there. And I wonder if it was equal proportions there.
All right, thanks a lot.
Okay, thanks, guys.
He was called a racist by somebody. Cindy had called in and called Joe a racist. And Joe had called in and talked about the people in Gary and the crime there and so forth. And does he have a point? In other words, are the police being racist by just targeting Gary and going in and sweeping Gary and nowhere else? I mean, it's mostly black people in Gary.
Well, I guess people could say that, but that's not to say that they're not going to make these sweeps somewhere else. They probably have to start somewhere, don't they? Now, as far as when I listen to Joe, I don't think of him as being racist. I think of Joe as being very old school and very conservative.
219-845-1100. Hi, George.
I wouldn't call him racist. I'd call him slightly ignorant. I have to say this. I hate to say it, but my ex-wife and my children are half Polish-American, half Mexican-American. My current wife is African-American. Last week sometime, this clown calls up and basically said brown people, I'm paraphrasing, but brown people ruined this country. He's got more problem with the melatonin in Obama's skin than he does with policy. And if he thinks that the policy of tax breaks for the job creator billionaires and letting Wall Street have that laissez-faire free market casino if he thinks that didn't ruin the country and run us into the ground, he forgot how we got here.
Thanks a lot, George.
He's a kindly old gentleman. He's he's good for a chuckle. But the guy gets under my skin when he starts talking, how many, you know why it was probably mostly black people that got busted in Gary, because that's mostly what lives here. And you know, I don't want to lose my temper, but this guy needs to read up on history. Apparently, he doesn't remember the Great Depression or read about it in school. He doesn't remember how the last 8 years before Obama got in dug such a hole. And yes, the policies of Obama were not as successful as they could have been because the Republicans have been blocking him at every turn. Partisan politics is trumping what's good for the United States of America. And
Leave it right there, Joe. Leave it right there, George. Thanks a lot. Let's go to Lee on line 1. Hi, Lee.
Yeah, hi. This must be the day for people to call up of Polish and Mexican descent. I, too, am the same.
And so are my daughters.
There's a lot of us around.
Yeah.
But no, the reason I'm calling is, you know, this bickering back and forth between Democrats and Republicans, this is like the old saying, this is like rearranging the deck chairs on a Titanic. You know, from what I've seen on both sides, and I tend to be more Republican, but still, I mean, I think we're not doing ourselves any favors by all this bickering back and forth between the two. The root for this whole problem is empire. You know, from what I understand, the average empire lasts about 300 years, and I think we're right about at that point right now. And we've got troops in 103 countries, like you know, like Ron Paul mentioned the other day. And we shot our whole wad by you know, running around all over the world trying to be a cop to the world. I mean, I remember this argument going on back during Vietnam.
Hey, let me ask you, Leah. Let me ask you a question. The Democratic head of the Democratic Party here, Dan Parker, is calling on Daniels, Coates, Lugar, Pence, all these Republicans to support Obama because he's saying that
yeah.
All right. Do you think that's even remotely possible?
It's not going to work. If we did Obama's plan, it's not going to work. If we go to Republican route, it's not going to work because we refuse to ignore the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room is just like Ron Paul mentioned the other day, is that we're wasting our treasure overseas.
All right, man. Thanks a lot, Lee.
We're not working for our own good. We're working for the good of these international bankers. And because of the fact that we're doing this, we've basically destroyed our country in the process. So, you know, like you mentioned, infrastructure. Could you imagine if we took half the money that we waste overseas, use it to rebuild this country, and that's even not the root of the problem.
All right, you know what, Lee, you got plenty in there. Lee, got to go gone. Thanks to Cindy. We got to move on. Hi, Cindy.
Hi. I was just calling. I think a lot of people forget, like people like Joe forget that when the previous president was in office, he says we're going to be looking for weapons of mass destruction. We never found them. He never got Osama bin Laden. It took our president, this president now, to do it. He's done a lot of things like that. We would have never gone into war if it wasn't for the previous president. All of that money that has been from there that we're stuck now paying for and dealing with, and I think people just forget about that. And I think that the 8 years our economy was being beaten down before. I don't think people want to see that. They just don't believe it. I think it is. I don't know what it is, but that's why I think it makes people think that Joe is a racist.
Do you think Joe's a racist?
I just think that Joe has his old-fashioned ways, and that I know people that still call African American people Negroes. He's probably one of them. That is their way. They just don't want to change, and that's fine. I mean, if he doesn't want to change, but and the thing about the thing in Gary, it's kind of funny because just because the majority is African American, a lot of people that come there to commit crime that are not African American that go and deal drugs and that are not. And I think that's another misconception that people have, that think that's what is going on.
Thanks a lot, Cindy. Thank you so much, Cindy.
You're so welcome.
219-845-1100, Alexis.
Jim, it's not that I think that the other president is the one that took us into war because obviously 9/11 happened. I mean, we were attacked by terrorists. The United States had to respond. I think the place where I agree with Cindy is the whole we have to go into Iraq to find weapons of mass destruction when everything else pointed to the fact that the responsibility was laying with Osama bin Laden, and that they were in Afghanistan. So maybe we took our eye off the ball and went to the wrong place, or I just don't know. I mean, when they finally got into Iraq, and the weapons of mass destruction were what? A bunch of old, rusted out missiles, or I don't even know what they were. They didn't have them.
219-845-1100. Elephant, how you been?
First of all, that guy that called after Joel called him a racist because he never lived through it. I dare him to tell me that I never lived through it. I was born a month after the Depression started. I lived through the Depression. Now, people say that Roosevelt took us out of the Depression. They better go back to U.S. history and find out the real truth. He, Dick Tojo, and Adolf Hitler brought us out of the Depression. It was called World War II. Now, I got a quiz for you. Name the president. World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, the hostage situation in Iran, the bombing of the Marines barracks in Lebanon, Black Hawk Down, and who let those terrorists stay in this country after the visa?
I don't understand your question, Alpha.
Who was the president in power at the time?
That would have been
Democrats, all Democrats.
It was Clinton, right?
Yeah. Well, he's saying that at every event that he just mentioned, that there was always a Democratic president in power.
Clinton let those terrorists stay here for 6 months, and it was after the bombing they found out that they overstayed their visas.
All right,
now,
thanks. All right, go ahead.
Since '36, this country has been socialist. We're not the land of the free. Socialism, welfare, Medicare, Medicaid, and Obama health care, and this job plan, that was started in 1932. It was called the WPA Project. We'll see you guys.
Thanks. 219-845-1100. Last phone call before Alexis heads out. Hey, Steve, how are you?
Hey, what's up? One of the things that's bothered me about the Obama administration, and I'm a staunch Democrat, and I think he's trying his best. But his big campaign promise was he was going to bring the troops back home, and he didn't. That was his big thing. I'm bringing the troops home. I have a brother-in-law that left yesterday for a second tour. I mean, when's this stuff going to end?
How long? So he left yesterday for a second tour?
Yes.
Is he married? He's married to your sister?
He's married to my sister-in-law.
You're married to your sister-in-law. So how does he handle it?
I mean, he's got to do what he's got to do. He's in the service. I mean, and the reason he joined the service was because he couldn't find a job.
And Steve, how old is he?
I believe he's 30.
Because I have a brother-in-law who went to Afghanistan 3 times.
Yeah.
And he's 54 now, and he just got home from this last time about, I'd say 2 or 3 months ago, and we're just all so grateful and blessed that he came home.
Now we're all scared,
Yeah.
I mean, he left. He's got three kids at home,
right.
3
and
babies,
he's young.
and it's like, but President Obama, his big thing when he was running for office said, I was going to bring the troops home. This wasn't going to be happening anymore, and nobody ever talks about that. He didn't come through.
All right. Hey, thanks a lot.